Charles, are we ready?
We're live.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the study session of the University City Council to order on January 27th, 2025. Before we begin the study session, are there any changes to the agenda at this time for the regular session? Hearing none. Mr. Rose.
Our mayor and members of the city council. During the January 13th study session, I presented to you the proposed work plan for 2025 through 2027. Tonight, I would like to propose to add one project to the economic development section of the proposed plan. That would be to allow us to examine the use of the LCRA for the acquisition of hazardous and/or abandoned properties. This project would be carried out by the new community development department. The person or individual that would be responsible for it would be the Third Ward Revitalization Coordinator, which you recently approved. But outside of that, there are no other projects that I would propose. So I would be happy to respond to any questions that you have or receive any direction that you would like to provide.
Are there any questions of the city manager on the work plan or the proposed change to the work plan? Oh, sorry. I didn't see you. Mr. Smotherson, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Crow. Thank you, Mayor Crow. And thank you, Councilman Dennis Fuller. That's what you know for clearing the way. No. But thank you, Mayor. But to Mr. Rose, just very quickly, and I'm glad to hear that announcement about the LCRA. Just trying to understand. So the person that is actually going to be hired for the housing task force is going to be connected to the LCRA, or will they be part of that? Or
the first step would simply be to use that individual. The housing that we would look at first are those abandoned or dilapidated hazardous homes that are in the Third Ward. So it would fall up under that umbrella. That person would simply be, it's a position that you have authorized us to move forward with hiring.
right.
The intention would be to hire that individual as quickly as possible. And Deputy City Manager Brooke Smith is in the process of preparing a job description and placing that out for hire, working with Amy Williams, our Human Resources Director, and now the interim Deputy City Manager as well.
Okay. And so again, so they're going to be able to utilize the power of the LCRA in their position and role in that regard.
That's what I would like to examine. What would be a effective use of the LCRA for acquiring those type of properties? The idea would certainly be to, when possible, place those homes, probably bid them out, allow the private sector to try and place them back on the market. But we need to put together an entire program for you as a council to evaluate and provide direction on.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clay.
Thank you, Mayor Crow. And thank you, City Manager Rose. I too appreciate leveraging the resources of the LCRA to address the vacancy issue, which is most, as we know, most acute in the Third Ward. I do have a question about the leadership of this particular prong of the work plan falling under the the revitalization, Third Ward Revitalization Specialist. I'm not sure what the title of the position is in that. While yes, a vast majority of the vacancies in University City are in the Third Ward, not all of them reside there. And so I would imagine, I'm looking at my colleagues in the second ward in particular, there are some that need to be addressed there as well. And I'm mindful of the kind of segregation of funds. We know the third ward funds are, we've got a lot of folks watching, including folks on the council, making sure that those funds are used just for the third ward. So as it relates to other vacant properties, that may be in University City outside the third ward, do you have a vision for how those would be handled that would not potentially impinge on the integrity of the third ward funds just being for the third ward?
Mayor, Councilmember Clay, I do. Initially, it's simply to examine the use, so performing a study basically that could be fully conducted by the revitalization coordinator. If we learn through the inventory that would, I'm assuming if the mayor and council decided to move forward with this program, we'd put together an inventory. And at that time, that would not only be isolated to the third ward, it would be citywide. And so sharing the cost on a percentage basis, somehow the amount of dilapidated housing that's in the third ward compared to the rest of the city, and covering the cost for that employee based upon that percentage.
Any other questions regarding the changes to the work plan? Hearing none, Mr. Rose.
Mayor, if there's no other direction, my intention would be to move forward with placing this item on your regular agenda for your final meeting in February. The next item on the agenda is an update on the summer camp program. And I would ask Director Girdler to come forward and provide an update. Mr. Girdler?
Thank you, sir. Mayor, City Council. I do have with me tonight Deputy Director Linda Yule-Taylor, in case there are any very specific questions that I'm not quite aware of yet. Thanks, Charles. Okay, we presented to you a few months ago our basic outline of the program. We just wanted, and we were asked to bring back an example of what the full 8 weeks would look like. So that's what I've got this evening. Is the and we were calling it our summer enrichment program. It's a lot more than just a day camp and or a daycare. We're trying to enrich the vibrancy of the youth that use this program. As you can see on the second page, CENTCOM University is going to be a 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Course in this first repilot year, since we haven't had it for about 5 years. And we're looking to just have resident children at $700 per child, and their ages 5 to 12. The first come, first serve. I think at this price we're going to get 50 campers, and we should, and we have our the ratios there, et cetera, and all the activity areas. CENTCOM University's organizational chart, Merrick Meehan, who is already on board with our who's already on board with our organization as a recreation supervisor too, will be the the organizer of this, and there will be a camp director, some inclusion coordinators and counselors, and then camp counselors. Weekly theme ideas for CENTCOM University. As you can see on this page, various ideas of what we're going to do. This is not set in stone yet, but we do plan to get it nailed down here very soon, because if we're allowed to go forward with this program, we need to start advertising it as soon as possible. The field trip Friday ideas. The typical zoo, bowling, trampoline park, water park, aquarium, science center, museum, magic house, history museum, botanical gardens. Are going to be is kind of going to be our directive for Friday field trips. Our first sample week is STEM week, which we really hope we're going to meet tomorrow with SLU, with St. Louis University about assisting us with STEM week, so that we can provide further enrichment. So we're pretty excited about that. The next one is horticultural week, and I'm not going to read these slides to you. You've you know, I'll be as brief as possible. And then around the world week, maybe the Magic House. The Bodies in Motion week at Sky Zone, which is the trampoline park, right? Yes. Creative Fine Arts Week, the Art Museum for the Friday trip. We as you can see in our plan here, we still have some recreational activities that the children can enjoy. You know, these are, like we said, these are 5 to 12-year-olds. We can't put them in school for that many hours a day in the summer. So we do have some activities in there. Life Week, you know, we're gonna still do swimming on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then maybe the City Museum for that. Gaming with Boards and Sports Week. Is that, do I have that up there, right? I can't see the title of my slides. Is that the right slide? Starts with how to keep scores. Next slide. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is it. This is it. Sorry. Maybe a bowling outing on Friday, or a tour of Busch Stadium, St. Louis, and then the Enterprise. Field trip to be in-house on our Municipals Week, where we'll have various departments present on how they interact with the public, and we'll have directors or supervisors come in and discuss that. And then finally, our proposed budget for 50 students, about 120,600. So that basically concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them. We're pretty excited about this, sir.
Mr. Girdler, regarding process, as I understand it, this has gone through the Parks Commission for
Yes.
input. Could you give some insight into what they recommended or what that input was?
We went over this last Tuesday night, and they think it's a great they think it's a great program. So there were no objections, put it that way. We didn't necessarily ask them to recommend it. We just wanted to know if they had any objections, and they think this is pretty good. Yeah, if everybody's good with this, we'd like to go ahead and start advertising so we can get signups.
Mr. Girdler, one
Yes.
final question. Or will this go back to the Park Commission if residents want to provide input, things to consider? What's the best approach for doing that?
Would be to contact the CENTCOM front desk, and either Linda Yule Taylor or myself as the director to give input. I know we did have an email about some input that we did review. We're, like I said, this is just another pilot year to get us back on our feet, and we're feeling pretty good about it.
Mr. Clay.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. One process thing related to the display, the menu bar to our IT team, or the menu bar up top is blocking part of the you see what I'm saying? The menu bar up top is blocking part of the, I think for presenters, that may be a little bit challenging if that can be addressed. I think you just click out of
Okay,
that.
we can-
So thank you for that.
We could certainly, if with permission, Mr. Rose, we could certainly post this on our website as a sample program. So that people could review it as a PDF or instead of a PowerPoint.
Mr. Clay, do you have
And-
other questions?
Yeah, and then I did actually have a question about the presentation. First of all, I commend you for this. It's very, very well thought out. Appreciate the detail associated with it. I believe in the past, and certainly I can be corrected if I'm in error. Scholarships were offered in association with the program. I'm not sure if that's a part of the conversation this year, given it's a pilot, but I believe that was something that may have been the case in the past.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. It's certainly not out of the ballpark. We would have to determine how scholarships would be awarded and on what basis. But thank you. I appreciate the question.
Mr. Teeman.
Honorable Mayor, my fellow council members, first of all, it's a very impressive. I really commend you for this. I just have a minor point that I'd like to make. Our question perhaps, is the Fine Arts Week to be centered on the visual arts at the Art Museum? Is that? The reason I'm saying this is that I was also, since you're talking about creative and fine arts, I was also wondering about the literary arts.
Oh, certainly. We can piece some of that into there. We're open to suggestions.
Yeah, I would, well, we can chat later on. I don't want to take up meeting time, but I was noticing that but if it's centered at the art museum, it might be more geared toward visual arts. But if there is a component to the literary arts, this has shown some real impact, upon literacy.
Okay. Thank you. And I appreciate your approach there, council member.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We probably got the same email today, but the scholarship question was in that email, and that's already been asked. Where would those funds come from if we were going to do a scholarship? We think.
There are two sources. Well, one primary source, likely out of general fund, out of reserve funds for that.
The other question that was in that email was, will there be a pre-care or aftercare program associated with this? Or is that being considered?
We don't, Councilman Fuller, sorry.
That's fine.
We don't necessarily need to disregard it, but this being kind of our pilot year, we're worried about being able to hire enough staff to take care of those programs. If we get a lot of interest and we're going to have 50, 75, 100 kids next year, I think that's certainly something we'll do for an additional fee. But I think we'll find next year that we're going to run out of 50 spaces in a hurry at $700 up for 8 weeks.
I would agree. I would agree.
Okay.
Last question. Is the program, would it be available for 1 or 2 weeks for some children? Or will the child will they have to enroll for the entire program? That's last question.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Fuller. Our intent, well, if you take the $700 per student and divide it down, it's the equivalent of $3 an hour. So, we're a very affordable program that we think that will bring enrichment to a lot of lives. So we could, but it complicates things at our control desk and for our employee. If we were up to the $1,600 level, where it was $200 a week instead of less than $100 a week, certainly we would look at weekly. If you would sign up and you would pay, okay, we're going to use 7 weeks instead of 8, so we're going to just drop a week. But at this cost, we believe that's not necessary. If someone disagrees, let me know.
And I'm only asking that as I think we just got to put it out there up front so you don't get this question asked. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Councilmember Fuller, one of the part of the criteria when we prepared the program was to keep it simple this first year, to gain experience, to learn what was good, what was bad, and then to grow it if appropriate to do so. So that's what we're really attempting to do, and not overly burden the staff with a program that we are really just starting.
Mr. Smotherson.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. I'll just leave it open to whoever wants to answer, and that is, are we accommodating summer school students at all? Because summer school is a half day program, and that's something that we've done in the past. But I'm just curious, are we eliminating that or not addressing that at all with this program?
Okay, yeah. It's just not our intention to address that this year. I think summer camp or summer school, June and July. Just June. Okay, so that's just the 4 weeks. Yeah, we wouldn't have it wouldn't be much of a burden. If we can get a scholarship program or something going on, it wouldn't be much of a burden for this at this cost. I mean, we're the lowest price game in town that we found out of 15 communities. Thank you, sir.
Mr. McMahon.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Girdler, for the presentation. And I'm glad you pointed out this is essentially a pilot, so we can get this back on track, hopefully get the enthusiasm in the community, and then we can build a program that fits maybe other needs. I think the Camp U with the school district is a full day program. It runs from June 9th to July 3rd. And then so it leaves that week from July through, I believe school starts on August 6th and around that time frame, or maybe it's August 9th. So there's about 4 weeks that would be uncovered by the school district's program, where we have about 2 weeks after this summer camp ends where folks would have to find their own care. And I think that's just a problem that we face with all these summer camps. They don't match up perfectly with school districts. So you're giving at a reasonable price almost the whole summer coverage. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of folks gave us an earful in the last couple of years saying, we have parents out there that don't have places for their kids. And so I think you've done a good job of addressing for a good chunk of time that coverage for almost the entire summer, almost an entire day for folks at a reasonable price with enrichment and not just, as you said, daycare. So I think it's a good program. And as we move forward, I think we'll be able to address some of those other issues. Like, can we have 50 kids for the first half, expand it to 75 for the second half of the summer to catch those kids from the school district's program? But that's something we look at the next go round, because we don't know what we're thinking we're going to hit 50 kids. But if we get more, we'll know that we'll be shooting for a different looking program next summer. So I'm glad you put this together. And my only question would be, do we have to take any council action? Because we're at the end of January. If we have to take a vote and get it in front of us before they can start advertising, we need to do that sooner than later.
It appears as though the consensus is to move forward with the program. So I believe we can confidently move forward with advertising it. There may be a budget allocation that will likely be needed to cover some of the cost, but that can come at your February 10th meeting. So we can continue to advance the program at this point.
I do want to join my colleagues in thanking you for making this program much more affordable than the first draft. We appreciate that, and the Park Commission as well, and staff for doing that. So let's hope that we, as you say, keep it simple and don't get too bogged down in the folks that want to tweak this thing the first year around. So let's get this thing out to our citizens with a clear, cogent message. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Girdler.
Okay, thank you, sir.
If
Council
there's
members, Mr. Rose, Madam Clerk.
If there's nothing else before the body, I would welcome a motion to go to closed session according to Missouri Revised Statute 610.021, legal action, causes of action, litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communication between that governmental body or its representatives or attorneys. Is there such a motion? Motion made by Mr. Teeman, seconded by Mr. Fuller. Is there a discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Teeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Smotherson. Councilmember McMahon.
Aye.
Councilmember Fuller.
Aye.
Councilmember Clay.
Aye.
Mayor Crowe.
Aye. To everyone in the room, the council will adjourn to the second floor. We will be back in plenty of time for the 6:30 session. So thank you very much. We'll be right back.